of the Health One podcast. Today I'm going to be talking about PCOS, Polycystic Ovary Syndrome. I'm going to touch a little bit on my journey. I'm obviously going to talk about the facts. I'm going to talk about the bullshit versus the facts and help you all understand things from a better perspective. There is so much myths with PCOS because, again, diet culture is involved in it. There seems to be this big divide between medicine and with, I suppose, holistic health. And again, holistic health can become naturopathic health where it's not necessarily based on evidence. So there is a lot of moving parts, and I suppose, again, as always, I'm in the middle. I am the voice of reason. I am taking in everything from all angles, and I am, I suppose, assessing things from a practical perspective, from an evidence perspective, and also from a perspective of understanding that science hasn't caught up yet, okay? I'm going to be talking about the types of PCOS. I'm going to talk about how stress affects your body. I'm going to talk about fertility. I'm going to talk about the menstrual cycle. I'm going to talk about insulin resistance and carbohydrates. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about the hormonal contraceptive pill. Again, hormonal contraceptives in general. If you are feeling inspired or motivated to come off the hormonal contraceptive pill or any hormonal contraceptives after listening to this podcast, I do have a masterclass available on my website that you can go and have a look at www.thehealthone.com. I'll talk about it in detail as we get through the podcast. I'll talk about my opinions, I'll talk about the facts, and we'll get into a little debate, I'm sure. Debate with myself. But yeah, so I was diagnosed with PCOS, as I mentioned in I think episode 2 or 3, I spoke about when I was diagnosed. It was like a weight that was lifted off my shoulders. It was like, oh my God, I have a reason for all this shit, all these unexplainable symptoms, why my mental health is so fucked up and so on. It isn't just the reason, but it was a big contributing factor, okay? There's a lot of different things that were going on, and I will speak about it with my mental health journey. At another stage, I will talk about trauma, I will talk about neuroscience, I will talk about the nervous system, and we will get into that. But this definitely is a contributing factor. So that's what I want people to understand as well, that your mental health, you might have mental health issues or poor mental health, doesn't mean that it's just from one thing, okay? So that's what I always tried to figure out, was I was trying to find the problem, that one thing that I could change, that would fix me, that would make things better, even if it meant supplements, even if it meant therapy, even if it was like one issue. But mental health is multifactorial, just like regular health is as well, okay? So I was diagnosed in 2017, November 2017, after a year and a half of having no menstrual cycle, okay? So I would have been on the hormonal contraceptive pill for 5 or 6 years. I was on it from a very, very young age. The reasoning I went on it was because I had extremely heavy periods. And one thing I want to talk about on this podcast is information that's not too much information, okay? A lot of women are afraid to talk about things because they say it's TMI, and where there's like a bit of shame and embarrassment. Like, I even know that like when women are walking through offices and stuff like that, if they've got period supplies, it's literally like they're smuggling in illegal drugs, and it's like, do you have a tampon? Yeah, pass that under the table, don't let anyone see. Put it up your sleeve when you're walking to the bathroom, etc. And it's like, we all menstruate, we all have periods, we all use these products. Why are we hiding them as if it's something to be embarrassed or ashamed of, okay? And that's probably a topic for another day, but I want to talk about, I suppose, having really, really heavy periods and how it can really affect your quality of life. So it would have been very difficult for me. I would have had to go home from school. I remember my mum used to always have to drop up stuff, whether it was a new skirt or whether she had to give me tracksuit bottoms or whether it was new period supplies or whatever, because literally it affected me that much. The pain of my periods, oh my fucking God, like I would literally be crying with them, like debilitated, constantly taking paracetamol or Nurofen or whatever just to really, really help the pain. And what I want people to understand is that painful periods are not the norm, okay? You do not have to accept painful periods. It is a sign of inflammation, of hormonal imbalances, of something. There's a mismatch, okay? There's something not right there. It is a cultural thing that we have accepted that you are going to have painful periods, and this is what I'm trying to make a movement towards, that it doesn't have to be like that, okay? There is actually life outside of that. Similar to with like digestive issues and stuff, just because it's been your norm your whole life doesn't mean it is the norm, okay? Just because it's common doesn't mean it's normal as well. So I would have went on the pill to basically help with those regular heavy periods, okay? It's going into my head, it's like, it's not my fault I've got a heavy flow and a white set vagina. If you don't get that, that's from Mean Girls. But literally would have had such a heavy flow that it really, really affected me. I don't remember if they were regular or not. I remember I was like a late bloomer I didn't get my period until I think I was like 12 or something, and I always remember my friends getting it like between the ages of like 9, 10, 11, and I was like, oh my god, when am I going to get mine? But I have spoken to other women over the years, and they've only gotten theirs at the age of 14. Some people didn't get theirs till like 16. So I guess back then I thought I was a late bloomer, but I know that there is such variations. Working with many different women, I have learned that there is even more variations between, like, I might put a strategy in place for two women thinking they have similar symptoms. One's menstrual cycle might react completely different to the others, and it's fascinating. It's really, really interesting, and that's what I have learned to honor and respect, is that our bodies are so different. And that's why I can find it sometimes difficult to come up with helpful content or even create a course, because I know that there's such variations between women. But we're getting there, course coming soon. But essentially it was for contraceptive reasons as well at the time, sorry mom. But it was kind of like a double-edged sword that I really wanted to go on the pill, and I went on it for 5 years. I got to a stage when I think I was 21, and I decided that it wasn't for me anymore. What I actually found was that the bleed that I was having was getting lighter and lighter. So fun fact, if you don't know this already, that the pill bleed that you have when you are on the pill, it's not a menstrual cycle, it is a breakthrough bleed, okay? It is a withdrawal bleed or a breakthrough bleed. It isn't actually a menstrual cycle. The function of the hormonal contraceptive pill is to basically shut down and suppress your natural hormones so that you don't make progesterone, so that you don't actually ovulate, so that you don't actually get pregnant, okay? Another Mean Girls reference coming in. I don't know why this is coming into my head all of a sudden, but like, don't have sex, you will get pregnant and die. But that is what doctors have become like, and it's actually so fucked up. So I suppose there is a community feel to what I do, which makes it fucking better. It is great to see all of the women that are getting involved and sharing their stories, because it really does give me more passion in my belly. But also then when I get to reshare that, it does help other women, they reach out and so on. So we need to spread this message, okay? Basically, what happened was the doctors are shaming people for not being on hormonal contraceptives, okay? So I actually plan on doing this podcast just on PCOS, but here we go. It's clearly a topic that I'm really, really passionate about, because you will literally go into a doctor's office and be shamed for not being on the hormonal contraceptive pill, okay? That is not your only option, especially with PCOS. I thought it was, and I thought there was literally nothing that I could do. When I got my diagnosis, I got told, are you looking to get pregnant now? And I said, obviously fucking not. She said, okay, hormonal contraceptive pill, it is. What's my other options? You're going to need to regulate your menstrual cycle by going on the pill. Going on the pill does not regulate your menstrual cycle, it shuts it off. Going on the pill does not fix your PCOS, it prolongs it and puts the problems further down the line. And it's basically like, okay, is fertility an important issue right now? No, we'll deal with you later. That's essentially what that is, okay? So I was 22 at the age, because 21 when I was first coming off the pill. Cycles got that little bit lighter, and I thought something was wrong. Like, I knew intuitively that something was wrong. That how do I go from years of having heavy menstrual cycle to kind of a regular menstrual cycle like I thought, to then really, really light bleeding, barely any blood, okay? So I decided, I don't have a boyfriend right now, I'm not really sexually active, I'm going to come off the pill, and it seems to be doing something weird with my body anyways. And I heard about all these stories about people having depression and stuff like that, so I was like, maybe that's contributing to my mental health as well. Because at the end of the day, shut down your hormones, shut down the hormones that make you feel good. Your estrogen makes you feel strong, makes you feel confident, makes you feel really fucking good. And then progesterone makes you feel calm and eased and that kind of nourished energy. Those are gone. You're taking external hormones, exogenous hormones, versus using your actual internal hormones that give you those natural feelings. The hormones on the pill are not the same as the hormones that you feel internally. They try to mimic them. Sometimes the forms that they use in the pill can actually cause more harm than good. So I decided the pill wasn't for me. I came off it expecting to have a period, didn't get one. It wasn't until like 8 months in that I was like, I'm pretty sure something's wrong. Like, I'm pretty sure I'm meant to have a period right now. But there was never like any general consensus. It was always like, oh yeah, it could take like 6 months for your period to come back and all that kind of jazz. And I was like, okay. So I decided to give it a year, and nothing was happening then. So I was like, okay, maybe something's wrong with me. that kind of year later is when I started to look after my health, and when I started to kind of think about amenorrhea, and I started to understand that maybe this was something to do with the fact I had eating disorders, I was underweight, I was restricting quite a lot, and I decided to kind of look after things in a holistic way as well. I was just really starting to shift into that headspace of looking after myself rather than punishing myself. So I would have had that first period in the summer, and it basically shocked me so much. Then I was like, okay, I'm actually okay. Then I would have started to get my hormonal acne. So when my period started to kind of switch back on, I suppose you could say, or start to upregulate or start to function again because they had enough energy, nutrients, etc., I would have had a delayed post-pill effect. So when you come off the hormonal contraceptive pill, you're going to have to deal with post-pill symptoms that can mimic PCOS, okay? So that's what started the journey of getting a diagnosis of PCOS. Some people are lucky enough and it's temporary, some people it's not, and that's me. So would have went and got investigated for PCOS, would have got blood tests, would have got an ultrasound, and then basically would have been diagnosed. Then the diagnosis with the hormonal contraceptive pill or not, and I chose not. I chose to go on a journey to really figure this shit out and really understand it. What I actually did was ignore it and suppress it for about 6 months to a year. I didn't actually fully accept I had PCOS. I actually just thought I had post-pill PCOS or amenorrhea, or a combination of both. So that was, and I did have amenorrhea because that year that I didn't have any sort of menstrual cycle was because I wasn't looking after my health. It was because I wasn't actually providing my body with the nutrients to basically be able to have a menstrual cycle in the first place. Then I would have started, when my hormones started to kind of switch back on, it wasn't necessarily that I developed PCOS. It potentially, I already had it underlying because I had those really heavy and irregular menstrual cycle, cramps, everything like that before I went on the hormonal contraceptive pill already, okay? Can't be determined, obviously, it was years ago, don't have any blood works, don't have an ultrasound scan. I can't really remember that much that far back. So how I was diagnosed was by the ultrasound and by the blood tests. I would have also had the physical manifestation of PCOS. So with PCOS, there's 3 criteria that you have to meet. The first one is anovulation or oligo-ovulation, okay? So oligo means irregular, an means without. So you either ovulate, you either have a menstrual cycle, or you have irregular cycles, irregular ovulation, okay? Fun fact as well, just because you have a menstrual cycle doesn't mean you're ovulating, okay? We all think that we are in the clear if we are having a monthly bleed, if we're having a monthly menstrual cycle, menstruation, but you're not actually guaranteed. So I would have had irregular or absent cycles, and I also would have had the confirmed cyst on your ovaries, okay? I would have also had the third symptoms, which was the blood test and then the physical manifestation of PCOS. So physical manifestation of PCOS could be acne, oily skin, sweating a lot, insomnia, hirsutism, which is hair growth kind of in male places. So I don't actually have that. A lot of women with PCOS would suffer with hair around their chin, hair on their body parts, hair anywhere except for up here. So you can get hair loss, which was the lovely symptom that I had during COVID. It was very, very nice. It would have started the year before COVID, so 2019, and it got progressively worse. And I remember very well that I was growing my hair out a little bit, giving it a bit of break from bleaching. Then I was gonna have luscious locks and was about to get it done just before COVID, and the fucking hairdressers were closed, obviously. So I went through all of COVID with like grown out, brassy, gingery hair, really thin, really short. She cut it up really short because it needed to grow. And oh my god, midlife crisis right there. But anyway, but I can still suffer with that. I can still suffer with hair loss if I'm not looking after myself. I can still suffer with acne if I'm not looking after myself. And last year would have been, both of those symptoms would have happened again. Like I said, when I did lose that little bit of weight, I would have kind of shifted into that leaner type of PCOS. So again, with PCOS, diet culture can kind of come into it, where there is either, this is like from a medical perspective, scientific perspective, there's either obese PCOS and there's leaner type of PCOS, okay? From my experience working with clients, it is that middle ground, that when you are kind of out of the obese range of PCOS and you're not too lean, you're not too underweight, you're in that middle ground. And that middle ground can be a massive range as well, and it's based on the individual. It's not a set weight in the scales, it's not a set dress size. It really is dependent on the person. But what I find is, if you're typically in that leaner type of PCOS, if you struggle with appetite, if you struggle to gain weight, if you typically are kind of I suppose, over-exercising, under-eating, that's when your PCOS is most unhealthiest. If you can gain a little bit of weight, if you can actually get your appetite up to a regular, I suppose, maintenance stage where you're not actually under-eating all the time, where you're eating consistently, where you're feeling hungry, where you're supporting your hunger and fullness, that's where you're going to support your PCOS the most. Those in a bigger body as well, there is scientific evidence for losing a bit of body fat, a little bit of body weight as well, that can help them shift into a healthier, from a PCOS metabolic perspective, body weight that can actually support their PCOS and can help support lowering insulin resistance. Again, not a defined number on the scale, not a defined dress size, not something we need to shame people over as well. And like I said, people can actually be in a bigger body with PCOS and have low appetite, be under eating. So it's not this thing where they need to eat less and move more, like that phrase is just circulating toxically on the internet, so we need to stop it, okay? Because it's just an assumption, and it can basically add a lot of shame to people thinking that they need to further do steps. Like, I have some clients in a bigger body who their metabolism is quite adapted, their appetite's quite low, they're eating not a lot of food, and their steps are literally as high as like 15 and 20,000, way too high, really unnecessary, but it's causing further metabolic damage with their PCOS, okay? So this is what I want to help you understand about types today. So the typical medical or scientific types, usually we're just fixated on lean type of PCOS and obese types of PCOS. What I want to help you understand is that it shouldn't be categorized just based on body shape or size, okay? Because we can actually see a lot of similarities between the two. It shouldn't be a divide between the camps, okay? It is particularly important for some instances because a lot of the messages are, you've got PCOS, go lose some weight. What about those in a leaner body who are actually really underweight? And then obviously the message that is really important for those in a leaner type of PCOS is to gain a little bit of weight, to exercise a little bit less. But maybe those in a bigger body with PCOS may need to exercise that little bit more. So it's really about context, as always, is important. Again, come back to the middle ground where we don't have rules and restrictions. It's guidance, it's personalized, it's individualized, okay? So with PCOS, there's 4 types, okay? So there's insulin resistant type of PCOS, inflammatory type of PCOS, post-pill type of PCOS, and adrenal PCOS. And this isn't like you need to box yourself off in any one category. Any one individual can have these as contributing factors towards their PCOS and why it's out of control at any one time. You can also go through a journey of working through different phases of them, but still suffer with one in particular, okay? So for example, inflammatory PCOS is kind of my last issue with PCOS at the minute. And when I'm really looking after myself, it's not an issue. But say when I got to Bali at first, I had a lot of inflammation because I continued to suffer from Bali belly for a few months. So that really fucked me up for a little while, okay? That's something outside of my control, but again, it really affects my PCOS. Another type that can affect me is adrenal. If I'm under quite a lot of stress, if I'm traveling, if I'm not sleeping, if there's stuff on my mind, if I'm really busy, and again, still not looking after myself, that's when that's going to flare up, and that's what's going to influence my PCOS. Post-pill PCOS obviously doesn't affect me anymore. It is that post-pill period that can affect you. Any form of hormonal contraceptives, okay? So they're really important elements to understand, and insulin resistance is a big one as well. That really impacts a lot of women. So it's not about that you need to be like, okay, this is my type. You might actually identify with one of those types to point you in the right direction of where you need to action and where you need to change your lifestyle, your diet, your supplements, and so on, just to get you to a place of, again, similar to IBS, there is no cure for PCOS. It's just to get you to a place where your symptoms are not flared. You can absolutely get to a place of neutrality and having things under control and having a regular 28-day menstrual cycle, having minimal symptoms and so on, but doesn't mean that it's reversed. It doesn't mean that it's gone away. There is a lot of stuff on Instagram about how they've reversed their PCOS and stuff like that, but I just want to help people understand that that's not necessarily true. It just means that they have reversed it to a point where they're not affected by it at that moment in time. If they don't look after themselves, and I suppose this is the issue with people promoting like a lot of restrictive diets for PCOS. Yes, you may actually be in a really good place right now, but what happens when you can't access that level of food? What happens if shit hits the fan in life and you're unwell? You're just going to get your symptoms flared up again. But you're going to think, oh my God, I'm after bringing my PCOS back. It's no longer reversed. It doesn't really go away. It's just under control. So I just want you to understand that as well, okay? So adrenal type of PCOS is the first one I'm going to talk about. And stress, I want to stress how important stress management is for PCOS. not only for PCOS, but for hormones in general, for life in general, for human health in general, okay? Stress is the single most influential factor, I think, on our health these days. I really do believe that. Because of our nervous system, because of the hormones that are released in circulation, such as cortisol, such as adrenaline, because the impact that that has, because of how it can deplete your nutrients and really affect your body from that. So in our body, we have different hormonal glands, okay? We've got like our hypothalamus, we've got our thyroid, we've got our pituitary, you've got your adrenal glands, you've got your reproductive organs as well. They all secrete a certain hormone or more than one hormone to communicate with the other hormones in their body, okay? With your nervous system, everything's instantaneously. With your hormones, it's a little bit of a delay. So that might mean that your appetite today could be, so your appetite is influenced by hormones. Your appetite today might be affected by your weekend, okay? So I'm saying today because it's Monday, but it could be as a result of the weekend, say even Friday or Saturday, and then you're getting the knock-on impact on Monday, maybe even Tuesday. There's a delay there. It's not in the same day. It can be, it very well can be, but I suppose what we need to understand is that the delay with hormones can impact us as well. You could have had a weekend of under eating, having no sleep, and really just not looking after yourself, a lot of alcohol in circulation. What can happen then is during the week you can experience a flare-up of symptoms. So that is the delay that we can see with our hormones. But what I want you to understand, and it's not to be looked at as like you did one individual thing wrong and you're after completely messing things up. It's the accumulation of habits and behaviours over time that is causing this chronic stress in your body. That's the biggest culprit, okay? That's what you really need to work on. So really looking at stress management is going to be so important for you. And I suppose I kind of spoke about that with my journey with IBS, and I suppose with eating disorder as well, of really understanding how we can slow down, how we can incorporate more Zen in our life, how we can meditate, how we can be kinder to ourselves, and so on. The next one is inflammatory type of PCOS, and what I'll typically see is with those that have digestive issues such as IBS, you will have the inflammatory type of PCOS because of that inflammation that is kind of there in the gut. That's going to have a knock-on impact with the rest of your body. So I know when mine is really, really bad and it's really, really heightened, I can even get issues with my skin as well. Not only the acne, but I can get like almost like eczema patches, where I was always someone throughout the years that would have had oily skin. Now I've gotten to a place where I don't really suffer with the oily skin anymore, where the androgen symptoms would have been really heightened, that I would have had like body odor, and I would have like literally could not go anywhere without bringing a can of deodorant with me. Oh my god, I was so embarrassed. Like every single night out I'd always be like dousing myself in deodorant. No one could really ever smell it because all they could smell was deodorant, but like it was like an anxiety thing for me, and that's from high androgens. Also with oily skin, also with really oily hair, and now it seems to have gone the opposite direction where I need to be concerned about dry skin and dry hair. Not fully. Sometimes I do have oily skin, and that's where I've learned to control it that little bit more with my skin products. Top tip: niacinamide is your friend. But with the inflammation in my gut, if my IBS gets a little bit of out of control, or if I have been unlucky enough to suffer with food poisoning, like I have been both in Portugal and both in Bali in the last year, that's going to have a knock-on effect with my PCOS as well, okay? The other one is insulin-resistant type of PCOS, and I want to just talk about that and bust some myths with carbohydrates. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a science lesson right now, okay? So insulin is a hormone that is needed by your body to help you get the energy from the food that you digest and to bring it into your cells as an energy force, okay? Insulin is basically a hormone that will bind to broken down carbohydrates. So you've got your insulin hormone, you've got your digested carbohydrates. In their simplest form is glucose. So say you eat a banana, you digest it in your mouth, goes down through your stomach, nutrients get absorbed, and the energy from that broken down into glucose gets transported from the bloodstream, so in your digestive system, into your cells. But your cell does not recognize that as an energy source unless it is connected to that insulin, okay? Then it gets accepted and then it gets brought into the cell as energy. What happens is your cells become resistant, they essentially reject it, okay? And it can be typically your fat cells. And if you think about it logically, okay, you have stored energy in your fat cells, okay? That's what body fat is. It's stored energy. So it's there for you whenever you need it. So if you go on a desert island, you have some energy in reserve, gonna help you for surviving, okay? And we have created this massive diet culture, this massive body dysmorphia culture based on stored energy. When we actually just think about it on the simplistic form of what it is, and this is why this stuff is really important, to understand the why behind things, to understand science, to educate ourselves, because we can help remove the societal or the cultural elements of it and help ourselves understand how to support our body or to neutralize our language and our approach and our mindset. Okay, so what can happen is your body fat cells can reject the insulin. Okay, and we want to work on lowering that insulin resistance, because if you have insulin then in circulation with the glucose, that's what can cause your symptoms. That's what can cause a little bit of havoc on your body. If that's not looked after, it can go on to develop pre-diabetes and then diabetes from there. That is not a guarantee, and a lot of doctors are scaring a lot of people with the fact of you're going to be infertile and you're going to get diabetes, and that's not true. Okay, if you support lowering insulin resistance, if you look after your diet, your lifestyle and your supplementation, you will not go on to develop diabetes. Okay, I just want to get that out there, because doctors are talking about metformin, the drug, which is a diabetic drug, which they want to get a lot of women on. And I actually want to help set the facts straight on that. They have done an amazing research study comparing both inositol, which is a natural form of a B vitamin, versus metformin, which is a drug. Again, I'm not anti-drug, I'm just all for the facts. So inositol is a supplement that they have compared to metformin, that they have found like for like with lowering insulin resistance. Does the same thing, okay? Does the exact same thing. However, you don't get the nasty side effects that you get with metformin when you take inositol, okay? So that's just something to consider. Obviously, you can take whatever advice that you want from your doctor. I am not a doctor. But at the end of the day, would you choose something that does the exact same job but actually is going to have little impact on your quality of life, is actually going to make you feel better? And it's really fucking powerful, inositol. So top tip, anyone with PCOS who isn't already taking inositol, take it at 4 grams per day. Okay, if you really want to get down to the science, you can take it twice per day. You can take it in the morning, then you can take it in the evening, 2 grams each time. What I say to clients is, though, is like, if you are going to actually remember to do that, amazing. If you're not, just take it once a day. I only take it once a day because I don't remember to take it twice a day, and yeah, that's me. So I want you to understand as well that fertility is something that is still an option for you, okay? Like what I said, is that the hormonal contraceptive pill will be offered as a treatment, okay, to basically regulate your cycles, quote unquote, and basically give you symptomatic relief. What I will say to clients is that if they're on the hormonal contraceptive pill for contraceptive reasons, fucking go for it. If you want to be on that, you absolutely go on that. There's no shame with you being on the hormonal contraceptive pill. But what I will say to those who are on it and don't want to be on it and actually don't have all their symptoms relieved, or still have insulin resistance in the background, or still have whatever symptoms, whatever presentation they have of PCOS, they were told that pill is going to regulate their hormones and lower their PCOS symptoms, and it actually isn't doing that job. So why are you on it? Okay, that's what I will say. This is not me telling people to go off the pill, like some people have come for me before and told me that's what I'm doing. I'm just giving people the facts, because we are not given enough treatment options as women. When we go to the doctor's office, we are dismissed. We are actually told, unless we stand up for ourselves, unless we demand certain tests, certain investigations for certain underlying conditions, unless we come with the facts, really kind of knowing what we want, which how the fuck are half the population of women meant to know what they want when they're not doctors, they're not trained, they're trusting in doctors to actually help them and show them what they need, or trusting in them to actually be able to help them move through any underlying conditions that they have, and that's not happening today. It's really not happening, and it's getting to a point where I'm like, where do we draw the line? Where do we stop putting up with it and start complaining, start actually reporting doctors that are being very fucking unethical and not actually living up to what they're meant to do, which is they have a duty of care to look after their health. I've had women tell me that they've been to a doctor's office and the doctors basically told them, I have real patients to work with, okay? Real patients. So I don't want to completely bash doctors. It's not all doctors, but it's majority of doctors. And again, it might not necessarily be an intentional thing. It might be a cultural thing. It might be an egotistical thing. It might be that they don't have time. It might be a systemic thing because of that. That's okay. But what's not okay is that this continues. What's not okay is that women leave doctors offices unheard, feeling like they're hopeless, feeling like they're helpless. And that's why I am really passionate about what I'm doing, because I want to help educate women to know what they are going into the doctor's office for. Educate people on knowing that health doesn't stop at medicine, that there's actually a lot that they can do outside of that. The doctors as well will recommend that you go on the hormonal contraceptive pill to protect the endometrium lining, okay, from cancer. And that is important if you're not having a regular menstrual cycle. But what they're not aware of, or what they don't really care to give enough time to look into, is the fact that if you actually work on getting a regular menstrual cycle, you wouldn't need the preventative measure of the pill in the first place, because you're going to have a regular menstrual cycle. But doctors don't know how to do that. Nutrition is where you actually learn how to support your menstrual cycle. Lifestyle, supplementation is where you help your PCOS symptoms, where you get to a place of resolution with your PCOS symptoms and actually having a better quality of life, actually having opportunity for fertility and not having the fear of God in you that you're not going to have kids. Like I didn't even know if I wanted to have kids until that doctor told me, yeah, you're probably going to struggle to have kids, like it might not be an option. And I was like, bitch, did you just say that to me? All in one sentence, go on the pill, off you pop. It's just a disregard for the women that are presenting in their office. They're looking at them as a number rather than looking at them as an actual human being. Like, if it wasn't for my, I suppose, not wanting to accept no as an answer back when I was diagnosed, and my love for finding out why and doing the research and taking matters into my own hands, I wouldn't know all the shit that I know today. I would probably still be suffering with a lot of my PCOS symptoms, still feeling very helpful, still feeling very low and defeated. And that's why I'm so passionate about what I'm doing today, is because I helped myself. You can help yourself. You can get the support of someone that can help you as well on that journey, like myself, and we can walk through it together. It doesn't have to be this scary place. It doesn't have to be this take a medicine, take the pill, take metformin, or be infertile or have diabetes. That's not the only options, okay? There is so much that you can do to support lowering insulin resistance, such as having regular protein, having a good portion of protein with every meal, aiming for 20 to 30 grams of protein per meal, okay? Eating regularly enough. Stop depriving yourself. Stop skipping meals. Stop ignoring your hunger. Stop deprioritizing yourself and prioritizing other people's needs over yourself. Whether it's your kids, whether it's your job, stop doing it. You need to look after yourself first and foremost. Work on regulating your cycle. And if you don't know how to do that, invest in things that will help you do that. Invest in courses, invest in working with a nutritionist, invest in actually just time to look this stuff up. But make sure that you're following accounts that are actually going to point you in the right direction, okay? So I'm biased, obviously, but my page is a source of actual information, not myths, not shit that doesn't matter. I'm really passionate about helping people understand and see the bigger picture, not selling you some sort of marketing idea, not trying to brainwash you into going on another diet or doing some fad thing just because it helps me grow my following or whatever. So stay away from extreme approaches. You don't need to go on another diet. You don't need to punish yourself. You don't need to restrict a lot of things that you think you need to restrict. Again, it comes back to inclusivity. What is not included in your diet? So for example, protein. So for example, fiber. So for example, nutrition, nourishment, stress management, meditation, sleep. All that stuff is more important than you trying to look at a keto diet, than you trying to cut out sugar altogether, than you looking at this metformin drug, okay? There is a holistic approach needed with PCOS, just like a holistic approach is needed with your health. And when we tackle it from all angles, it can actually help with lowering inflammation, lowering stress, lowering insulin resistance, and really helping you come to a place where your body is feeling good, where your hormones aren't really, really out of control. So yeah, I definitely went on more tangents than I planned on today. I can't really help myself when it comes to the medical system because, like I said in the first episode, that's how I started this. That's what I actually thought I was going to do. I thought I was going to be a doctor until I realized how fucked the medical system is, that there's this absolute gap between lifestyle and nutrition and medicine. And I really hope that one day we have a world where both can work in synchronization with one another. There's this personalized, individualized care where we can refer from one to the other. We can work together, and it's about the person, it's about the client, it's about the patient. It's not about egos, it's not about rules, it's not about segregation. It's actually about moving forward and helping humanity as a whole. There we go. But yeah, thank you so much for listening. If you found this useful, I really do hope that you can share this on with someone, because again, it's really the purpose of this is just to get my message far and wide so that I can help more people on their journeys, whether it's with IBS, PCOS, relationship with food, spirituality, health as a whole, whatever it is. I just really want to help more people. I really hope as well that if you did like this, that you can leave some feedback in the review section and that you can subscribe to the podcast. So yeah, as always, you can find me at The Health Hun on Instagram and at www.thehealthhun.com. So yeah, thank you for listening and goodbye.